called an investment. Never said it was a good one. So, this was my mistake this decade. I really fell in love with Arcade1UP. Arcade1UP is a brand of these smaller arcade cabinets that are meant for home use, and they're kind of made out of cheaper materials, something you can just put together like IKEA furniture. Easy step-by-step directions. These arcade cabinets, could be found in like Walmart's, Best Buys, GameStops, all that kind of stuff. When they launched, like $300, you get it. You get an arcade cabinet for your home. They're a bit smaller too, but they're big enough to feel like an arcade machine. When you're playing it, you're just sitting there. It feels like an arcade machine. And when these got announced, I fell in love with the concept. But over time, I've just found myself far less enthused about the product line and just everything they're doing. I still love keeping up with them, but I just kind of want to talk about my experience with Arcade1UP and what I think about them now, what I thought about them before, what I'd like to see from them in the future, all of that stuff, because I really like keeping up to date with these things, but I kind of find myself less and less excited as the years go on. So, before 2018, I always wanted an arcade cabinet for my house. Like as a kid, I would try to go on like websites and look up like arcade cabinets for sale, because I always thought that was like the coolest thing ever to own like an arcade machine for the house. Even something as silly as like, a billiards table or like a cotton candy machine or a popcorn machine or something like that. I always found things that you wouldn't normally find in houses like super cool, and arcade machines were no different, especially me as a kid, and even especially now, really liking like old school arcade games. I really love the old school Namco stuff. Of course, it's like, oh wow, you're a basic bitch Pac-Man fan. Yes. And I always wanted like either like the Miss Pac-Man and Galaga Class of 81 combo arcade machine. You got Miss Pac-Man and Galaga, but then also the original Pac-Man with like a code in that one. Or specifically, like there's like these really cool like Pac-Man compilation arcade machines. Some of them were even meant for home use. Like you would see them for sale on like QVC or somewhere like that, where they would cost like thousands of dollars, but hey, they were for at-home use. And you'd get like Pac-Man and Galaga and all these other great Namco games on them. And I always really wanted those. Even like the little cocktail cabinets, I thought those would have been awesome to own. But it was never really feasible. Arcade machines not only would generally cost a lot of money on places like eBay, or just if you look up, price of arcade machine, like it would be in the thousands. That's not always the case, because you could go to arcade machine auctions and you could get some arcade machines for like $20. They weren't arcade machines you'd want, but you could do it. But I was never in a family that really wanted to do that kind of thing. I don't really think I was in a family that wanted to like section off an entire part of the house for an arcade machine. So I just kind of gave up on that dream. And, it was always something I wanted. But in addition to the price, like thinking about it practically, like those arcade machines were crazy heavy. Those things were heavy. And then the maintenance on those things, like who would you call to fix that? If something went wrong with your Pac-Man machine, like there isn't an easy number to call. You'd have to learn a lot about fixing arcade machines and a lot about arcade circuit boards and just the power that goes into that and all of that stuff. There's a lot of maintenance that goes into that stuff in addition to the price point. So I kind of gave up on that idea, especially when I got my own place, when I moved into my own apartment. Something where it's just like, yeah, it would be cool to get my own arcade machine, but I do not have the space. But then I remember looking at my YouTube subscriptions, and I saw some YouTube channels that I follow talk about Arcade1UP, like these Street Fighter machines you could get for your home. At least the first one that I saw was the Street Fighter 2 one. And it all clicked to me. It was all like, oh my god, like this is what I always wanted. It was literally like my prayers have been answered. It's an affordable option for like an arcade-like experience in your home. You still get the experience of kind of like, this looks like an arcade machine, it plays like one, and it may be a little smaller, but it's still like, it just, it's good enough. And that was kind of the whole thing with Arcade1UP. You know, it's a good enough experience. It gives you the arcade experience in your home for a cheap price. Well, cheap, it was like $300, but still. And I remember the first ones that they really released and announced and all that stuff, like Street Fighter 2, which came with like 3 different variants of Street Fighter 2, and then Galaga. And that was the one I wanted because I always loved Galaga. And I got that one first time I saw it. First time I saw it was like Black Friday at Walmart, and I picked it up immediately. I didn't care. Like, I didn't care if that thing barely fit in my car. Like, when I saw it, I went to Walmart on Black Friday for a completely separate thing. I was like working on like a big video project, and I had to run there to buy like spray paint. So I got spray paint, but then I also saw they had the Galaga machines for sale, so I immediately bought that. And yeah, that thing was not really meant to be carried by one person, but I still got it, and it was a really cool experience to get that. Just, you know, putting it together, you know, it only took like 30 minutes to maybe an hour, definitely more so around the 30-minute range. And you know, for $300, it was pretty damn good. It was not perfect at all, but I think it did exactly what I wanted it to do. And as the years went on, I saw them do all these other things, and a lot of them really excited me. The countercades, they started doing stuff where it was like cheaper Arcade1UPs that were smaller, that fit on like a desk or something. And I saw that at the store. I saw like a Pac-Man one, and I immediately bought that. And you know, they were doing all these other things like the cocktail cabinets, or the head-to-head cabinets, however they want to call it. You know, that was like, oh my god, that's amazing. And you know, they started getting all these cool licenses, and you know, they started doing light gun cabinets, and they started doing re-releases of cabinets, and they started upgrading them, and all that stuff. You know, when I finally moved into a bigger place, I was like, oh my god, I can actually buy all these Arcade1UP cabinets that I always wanted. So I bought all of them, and I finally put them all together, and then when I look at them all, I'm just like, I don't give a shit about these things anymore. Yeah, I've kind of fallen out of love with these things. I still love the concept of them, but I feel like they're kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of weird. You know, there was a time when I was just so damn excited for everything they were doing. And now it just kind of feels like they're just kind of re-releasing the same stuff, or they're just doing the same things over and over again. I find that they'll release something, and then 6 months later, they'll release like a variant of it with an upgraded thing for around the same price. And it just kind of makes me feel like really burned. Like, most of these cabinets that I bought now have like upgraded versions available. And I only bought these like 6 months ago. And these are like hundreds of dollars, you know, like that original price that I paid was like $300, and now like these things are going up to like $700, and it's ridiculous. Bandai Namco Legacy Arcade Game Miss Pac-Man Edition. So they keep on doing these re-releases of Pac-Man machines. I remember the first Namco related thing that they released was the Galaga machine, which only included Galaga and Galaxian. I should know, I was the sucker who bought that. I love Galaga. It's like one of my favorite arcade games, you know? It's just like, oh man, wow, Scott, what else do you like? White bread? But no, I love Galaga. I love those old simple Namco games. Pretty much all the other Arcade1UP games came with like 3 games. But that one only came with 2. And Galaxian is pretty much just a slower, worse version of Galaga. So you pretty much only got 1 game. So it's just like, yeah, I bought it. I was happy to buy it, but it's just like, it just kind of felt like there wasn't a lot of bang for your buck there, especially with Pac-Man. Pac-Man later got announced, and that only came with Pac-Man Plus, which nobody gives a shit about Pac-Man Plus. That's just like some weird variant of Pac-Man that was like only included because they were like, well, we don't want to give them too much value. Obviously, the immediate idea is like, why not include Miss Pac-Man with that? But Miss Pac-Man is like wrapped up in like a lot of legal weird things. Like the company At Games owns Miss Pac-Man for some reason, or they have the license for it. I don't know. But like Namco can re-release Miss Pac-Man. It's just harder for them to. But for some reason they can't re-release Miss Pac-Man alongside regular Pac-Man. So any Arcade1UP cabinet that features Miss Pac-Man doesn't have regular Pac-Man. They have other Pac-Man variants, so I'll click on this Bandai Namco Legacy Arcade Game Miss Pac-Man Edition. As Miss Pac-Man, Galaga, Galaxian, Dig Dug 2, Mappy, Dragon Buster, Rompers, King and Balloon. They have Pac-Mania, Pac-Land, Pac-Man Plus. They have like the ROM hack of Pac-Man, Super Pac-Man, Pac and Pal. but like not the original Pac-Man. I don't know if that's like a rights issue or just because like they still want to give you a reason to buy this compared to like another Namco Arcade 1-Up that has all those same games pretty much and Pac-Man. But that just feels like really lame because it's like these things cost a lot of money. Like that Miss Pac-Man Legacy Edition cabinet costs $500 by itself. So it's just like, but what if there's like one game on there that you really want? Well, you can go to the Galaga Arcade game 40th Anniversary Edition. That one has Pac-Man, Galaxian Pac-Land, Pac-Man Plus, Super Pac-Man, Dig Dug 2, Pac-and-Pal, Pac-Mania Mappy, and Rompers. So pretty much a very similar games list to the Miss Pac-Man one, but you get Pac-Man on this one. So many of these Arcade 1-Up releases are just kind of like shuffling up the games list. You know, they might have a different design, all that stuff, but for the most part, these are all kind of the exact same machines with a shuffled game list and like maybe a different feature. Like, all right, we had the Bandai Namco Legacy Edition cabinet, Miss Pac-Man Edition. Here's the Miss Pac-Man 40th Anniversary Collection, which is different from the Miss Pac-Man with riser and light-up marquee. So we go to the Miss Pac-Man 40th Anniversary Collection, and that includes Galaga, Galaxian, Dig Dug, Mappy, Rally X, Rolling Thunder, Rompers, the Tower of Jiraga, and King and Balloon. Like, I get having the different arcade designs, but I feel like just shuffling the games list and offering exclusive games on certain collections, it's just kind of rude. It just makes it so then, like, you're never going to be fully satisfied with an Arcade 1-Up machine that you get. Like, I got this Miss Pac-Man Galaga Class of 81 back here, and I just feel like any day now, or they probably already did, I just haven't been paying attention, but any day now they're going to announce a better one with like a better marquee or a different game included and all that stuff. And I'm just kind of like these are costing me like $600. Like, yeah, the price increased on a lot of these. Like that Legacy Edition one was $500. These used to start at $300. And you'd think that like the quality would go up, and in a lot of cases, like, yeah, but it's pretty minimal considering how much the prices have skyrocketed. And I understand a lot of these materials are really expensive now. Sometimes, like, you can't do anything about rising prices, but it doesn't really feel like the quality is getting better. It feels more like they're just throwing more stuff in the box. One of the big complaints of the original Arcade 1-Up cabinet was that the marquee at the top was not lit. It was just kind of a slab of wood. Now they're adding a light up marquee, and they stink. They don't look that great most of the time. As you can see on the camera, like, they just kind of look really washed out, and the light isn't really like that uniform. They just kind of look cheap. And I honestly felt like with the original like wooden design, that always remained like good looking because it was just it was just wood. It just always looked like, yeah, like that looks well printed and whatnot. And now whenever I turn one of these on, the marquee lights up, which is nice. You know, I'm kind of like, hey, thank you for lighting up the marquee, but the light effect is just really bad. And then like a lot of these just include a bunch of random stuff like tin signs and stools and all of that, and it feels like they're kind of just adding stuff in to make the price feel more validated. Like, hey, this is why you're spending $700 on the Simpsons arcade machine, because it includes a stool and tin sign that you didn't ask for. The Miss Pac-Man Galaga Class of 81 cabinet includes like this light up deck protector where it's just like you turn it on and like, oh man, you can have it glow different colors. And again, I didn't ask for that. And on top of that, it looks gross. I think mine came like scratched or something. Like I turned mine on and it just, the effect, like there's like all these cracks and scratches on the deck that like light up with it, and it just looks bad. And on top of that, you have to go out of your way to turn the deck protector light on. So it's just something where I'm like, why would I turn that on? Like, I have to go out of my way to turn this thing on that doesn't make any difference in the world. It's just like, oh, I want it to be blue. Like, why do I want it to be blue? Why can't it just turn on alongside the cabinet? I turn on the cabinet, the deck protector lights up. Instead, I have to turn on the cabinet and turn the deck protector on. It feels like something they just threw in at the last minute to make the price feel validated of being probably like $500, $600, however much this thing cost. It was literally like, oh, let's add this on the top. Like, it's literally like an added, it feels like a custom mod instead of like a feature that they added. Rampage was one of the other first ones that they did, and I don't know, I just don't really have any attachment to a lot of these midway games. Rampage, Gauntlet, Joust, Defender. It was probably definitely like one of the more bang for your buck machines back then, because even the Street Fighter 2 one had 3 games, but you know, it's all Street Fighter 2. They had a couple of Atari ones, and you know, those are okay, but it's also, you know, something where it's just like, you know, Atari games. These ones kind of gave you a lot of like very, you know, meatier arcade machine experiences. You know, it was cool, but I just didn't have much of an attachment to most of these games. But then they started to get really cool in you know, the forthcoming years after that big launch year in 2018. You know, I did the Star Wars home arcade machine, which was a bunch of the Atari Star Wars games, and it was really cool to see them branch into the licensed territory, because there's so many classic licensed arcade games. But then they did Space Invaders. That was one that was like, wow, like they literally tried to be like, oh, you get 2 games in this one, Space Invaders and Space Invaders Color. And this was like one of the most expensive ones at the time. I have no damn idea why. This is when they were kind of starting to like get a little ballsy with their pricing. They were like, oh yeah, let's try a little bit more for this. Let's see if we can. A lot of these like more modern ones that they're doing, like, kind of adding features that I'm just kind of like, all right, so you're gonna add that and not like have like better quality buttons and arcade sticks. So a feature that a lot of these modern ones have is online, either online multiplayer or online leaderboards. That's really cool. But like, there's a dedicated button for the online. So just like something like the Ms. Pac-Man Galaga one that I have, that has like an online leaderboards feature, not online multiplayer, just online leaderboards. And there's this whole ass button on the cabinet that's dedicated to it that kind of just ruins the ruins a lot of the design. Like, it's like Arcade1UP has like this thing with like all of their online features where it's just like it's branded with this live logo that's supposed to be like, oh, it has live technology, and it's in this like 90s ass font, and I'm just like, why? Like, this whole, like, it does not match with my Ms. Pac-Man Galaga machine. It's completely out of place, and on top of that, it's not necessary at all. Why do I need a button to go into like the online leaderboards menu? These Arcade1UP cabinets still don't have like a home button that you click to go home to the game selection menu. So pretty much all of the Arcade1UP machines have, you know, a very small user interface. You turn the machine on, it does the Arcade1UP logo, and then you go into the menu system where you select your game. And you select your game, and then you go into the arcade game. And to go back to the menu selection, you either have to turn off the Arcade1UP, or you have to like hold the player 1 button for like 5 seconds, and then it clumsily brings you back to the selection menu. So you don't have a home button, but you have an entire button to just bring me to a menu for the online leaderboards, which I can only access while I'm on the game selection screen. I can't access that while I'm in the game itself. And speaking of design, the Arcade1UP design kind of felt right because, like, you know, it was supposed to kind of feel a little more toy-like. You know, these machines are definitely smaller, and you know, like, they're meant to be, like, you sit on a stool and you play them. And if you want to stand up and play them, you buy the riser, which is sold separately. And, you know, it was originally sold separately. And, you know, you put the Arcade1UP machine on top of the riser, and then you can stand up and play it, you know, at normal height. And originally the riser just had the Arcade1UP logo, nothing special. It was just a black riser with the logo on the front. And then they started to do branded risers that fit the game theme. And now, you know, they're starting to do stuff where it's just like the cabinets are trying to be as close to the original design as possible. Try to do all this stuff that just feel right. But I don't really know what they want. Do you want the arcade cabinet to feel more authentic, or feel more like an Arcade1UP special thing? Because, like, the more you try to make it more authentic, the more that Arcade1UP logo that's just blasting in your face above the LCD screen just makes that feel that much more like, why? And then, like, look at like the X-Men arcade machine. You know, they actually have like these fake coin doors kind of thing. But then they also do this thing that like a couple Arcade1UP cabinets do that I always thought looked really tacky and really lame. Like they just put like the logos of all the games included on like a black background. I'm just like, why not use this opportunity to put some art there? Like the Miss Pac-Man Galaga one does that. It's just like, why can't they do that for like some of them? And of course, like that was the design of like the original launch Arcade1UPs, but like they keep doing they did it on like the X-Men one. They had to put it right there. But then like the Riser has all these crazy designs, but you know, it still doesn't match with like, you know, the actual core Arcade1UP cabinet design. Well, some of them do. You know, I have some cabinets that have risers that are like extensions of the arcade art, and it just feels like, in some cases, it just feels a little sloppy. You know, some of my Arcade1UPs have that standard logo on black design, and then some of them don't have that. They have an actual, like, whatever, game sprite art design. And then a couple of them, these are like Legacy Edition cabinets that are supposed to be like these re-releases of whatever, like older machines they've done. Like I have this Street Fighter 2 one, and it's supposed to be a Capcom Legacy Edition cabinet that includes a bunch of Capcom games, but it's themed around Street Fighter 2. And you can tell it's a Legacy Edition because they put this really tacky sticker of a coin door on the front. And then they decided like 2 months later to release Arcade1UP machines with actual molded coin doors. Now they don't work, but it's still like, it's like, come on, why? Why? Like pretty much all my Arcade1UPs just don't match each other. They just all look a little tacky. So it's just like, I don't know, man. It's really weird where I'm just kind of like, I'm kind of over the design. I thought they were cute when it was like, oh, these are $300 and they're Arcade1UP special, whatever, little home arcade machines. But as these things are getting more and more expensive, and as I'm getting more of them, I'm just kind of going like, man, either stick to a design template. Like, if you're going to go Arcade1UP with these things and have Arcade1UP staples across all of these things, just have Arcade1UP staples. Don't try to go closer to the arcade machine while also keeping with that Arcade1UP tradition. Like, just go either one way or another. Go full Arcade1UP or go full trying to replicate the arcade experience. Because it ends up making me feel like, you know, like I'm in a fucking madhouse in here. I could always kind of forgive the quality of like the sticks and buttons. You know, I'm not looking for like professional quality stuff or like the most high-end quality stuff, but like for the price I'm paying for these things, like I'm using the sticks and I just constantly feel the top of the ball of like these sticks just constantly like kind of unscrew and rescrew and all that stuff. It doesn't feel like I can get a good grip on a lot of these arcade sticks because like the tops just keep on like rotating around and they just don't feel right. A lot of people were upset with the Simpsons arcade cabinet because of the orientation of like the arcade sticks. The fact that like for some of the characters it's just too tight. The smaller compact design of the Arcade1UP machine just doesn't work well for like, you know, these 4-player machines. But you know, that was like one of the most expensive. It was like $700. So it's something where it's just like, yeah, like you shouldn't have these issues. And then I got this Pong pub table that I was like, oh, that's such a cool, cute little thing. And on the website, it always said like, it's just like, oh, and it comes with this state-of-the-art, really great kind of glass surface that really protects the screen. And none of them did. Those tables do not come with a protective surface. All of these Arcade1UPs, like they initially didn't release with like protectors on the top. And because of that, people were noticing like, you know, the paint chipping away or the overlay chipping away. And like, that's an issue because, you know, people would play these and get sweaty and all that. And, you know, it would kind of chip away at the paint or, you know, the overlay, like I said. And yeah, that's a big issue. So for a table that they have, like an actual like table that's kind of designed to just sit down and put a beer on or something like that, it does not have a protector. Their excuse was that like, oh, well, we fine-tuned our design of like, you know, like wood quality and all that. So then that won't have any issues. You can put a drink on it and it should be fine. There is no way in hell that is true. That thing is just waiting to get scuffed up, just have shit spilled on it, and just be ruined forever. And it's just like, that was another really expensive one. It was like $500. And it's just like, why? And even then, that has exclusive games on it that the Atari cabinet that I have that also costs $500 doesn't have. And there's no reason why it shouldn't have it. Like, that one has Super Breakout and Pong doubles. I'm like, why doesn't that one have it? It's Pong! I just noticed, like, right after I buy them for, like, hundreds of dollars, like, Arcade1UP will announce a variant. And, you know, it might have, like, an extra game that I'd prefer. You know, it has online support and a better design or a different design that I actually prefer. And, you know, I get it, you know, like, you want to kind of stick with, like, you want to kind of keep introducing stuff to get more people interested, you know, have people maybe, like, buy another one and all that. But I just feel like it just feels like a really, it just burns. You know, these things aren't cheap enough and small enough to be like, oh yeah, sure, I'll buy that one to replace it. Like, when you go out of your way to just keep on pumping out new Arcade1UP after new Arcade1UP after new Arcade1UP, that's just like, oh man, this is like a slightly better version of that Atari thing that you just bought. I'm gonna be a little pissed. Like, literally, Arcade1UP announced better versions of both the Atari one that I have and the Capcom one that I have, because these ones just have fake sticker coin doors on the front. And yeah, they announced ones that have online multiplayer, online leaderboards, and you know, better fake molded coin doors and all of that stuff. And I kind of look at these and I'm like, oh, great, I bought these and I really shouldn't have. And like, one of the lamest things was that they had this big thing where they finally did this Killer Instinct cabinet. It was a big deal. It was like, oh my god, finally, Killer Instinct, that's amazing. And then before the Killer Instinct cabinet actually fully launched or like actually released and shipped to customers, they announced like a pro line of it. If it was like Pac-Man or something, sure. Like, you already have a billion Pac-Man Arcade1UP machines out there, and that was like one of the first ones that you released. You're allowed to do like a better version of it, fine, whatever. Even if you just did like, oh, a better Pac-Man like 2 days ago. But still, like Killer Instinct didn't even release yet. Like people were still waiting on their pre-orders to come in, and that's when you announce a better version. Like, come on. Yeah, so these are kind of like the big good ones that they're doing now. This is $700. This is the Golden Tee one. And I kind of want the Golden Tee one, but I'm also like, I don't know, man. These are much bigger. They have better screens, better sound, all that stuff. Like, these are actually kind of like the size of regular arcade machines, and they have better materials, all that stuff. Bigger screens, just like less of an Arcade1UP kind of funky design to it. Like, this looks much more like a traditional arcade cabinet. No riser, nothing like that. And that's really cool. I'm all for Arcade1UP doing weird stuff like, expanding their product line, offering these bigger, more expensive versions in comparison to like their, like smaller ones like these that might be a little cheaper. I'm all for that, but I feel like the way they do it just kind of burns their existing customer base. And a lot of the games that they are announcing and releasing are just kind of variants of games that they've already done. And they're getting to price points where I just kind of feel like I'd rather just get like a really specced out, really awesome like multicade, you know? Like, I look at this wall and I'm just like, this is really cool. I put these all together. I'm very proud of that. But I'm just not enthusiastic about it anymore. I saw this website called Dream Arcades, and I've heard of them before. I've worked with like companies to build like arcade machines for like press events and all that stuff. It looks, really great, but they also, will like create arcade cabinets for you. And like the prices are outrageous. But to some extent, like I'm kind of like, I might prefer just saving up and getting a dream arcade and just having one major badass arcade machine. And then just giving these back to like some friends or something that might be down to have an Arcade1UP machine. I think it'd be really cool to offer downloadable games. It's something where it's just like you kind of help future-proof a lot of these cabinets. These cabinets cost more than a damn PS5, so it's just like I don't want to just buy it and then 6 months later you announce a better version of it, because that's what they're doing all the time. I would really love it if like that Miss Pac-Man one. Why not offer like download where it's just like, yeah, for $5 maybe I could get the original Pac-Man and I could install that on the here, or like get all these other games that you're releasing on these other Pac-Man cabinets. They can be games that you can download games that maybe only from the same publisher or something, that's fine. But just have it so then, like, I don't have to feel any regret when I buy one of these. That I feel like, you know, I can keep these things updated. I can keep these things relevant. A lot of these cabinets that have these updates or even extra games, like, they may not have a design that you like at all. Like this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Turtles in Time arcade machine. It's pretty much the same cabinet as the original Ninja Turtles arcade machine that they did. But this one has, like, the Turtles in Time cabinet art. You may not want the cabinet art, but this one has online play and molded coin doors and all of that. So it's just like, okay. And I like that they're doing, like, new things. I like that they're trying to do, like, weirder designs, like the Street Fighter 2 Big Blue arcade machine. Like, you know, that's pretty cool. You know, just kind of going for a different style of design. You know, I get it. And, you know, like, doing cool stuff like Tron and Dragon's Lair and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's awesome. They're also doing stuff like pinball machines, digital pinball machines. And, you know, I get it. You know, it's something where pinball is another thing that needs maintenance, and it's expensive. It requires a lot of knowledge on how pinball machines work and operate. And, you know, a digital pinball machine isn't nearly as fun, but it's something where it's just like, hey, it's cheaper, and it's also much lighter and easier to move. And even like Arcade1UP Jr., I've seen people go like, what's the deal with this? I'm like, if I was 3 years old, I would have fucking loved this. I think for a lot of little kids, this is really cool. I don't know how well it does, but it's just like, still, like, I think as a 3-year-old, it's pretty cool. And they do a couple other things, like this Polaroid photo booth for, like, at home. You just, like, hook it up to a wall, whatever. The Infinity Game Table is kind of like an interesting concept, but it's pretty much like just a giant Android tablet with, like, just, like, board game apps that you can download, where it's just like, oh, I can play Monopoly, the iPhone version, on a big-ass table. Or you could play Monopoly. See, I sound like an old-ass person when I say that, but seriously. Hey, sometimes the video game version, it makes more sense in a situation. This one is, like, something where I'm like, I don't know, man. Hey, it has a lot of rave reviews, so, like, I guess people really like it, but, and also, you know, you get all those games all in one table instead of having to, like, store them somewhere, so, like, you know, I kind of get it, but it's just, like, you know, like, I think playing the actual board game would probably be more fun. The party cades are things that you can kind of, like hook onto a wall or just, like, set up on a table or something. Like, these are really neat. The projector cade, which is just a projector with, like, a hooked up joystick. It's pretty much like an evolution of, like, the plug and play joysticks from back in the day, which is kind of neat, but it's still, like, I think they're kind of just, like, throwing everything at the wall, seeing what sticks. They did, like, this big, like, oh man, big Pac-Man joystick. I'm like, that looks like hell. The Couchcade, which is pretty much, like, again, another like plug and play setup, but it has, like, a little beanie bag on the bottom of the joystick that you can sit on your lap, pretty much. Like, okay. The countercades, I think, are really cool. They're big enough to still feel like it's just like, oh, this is substantial. It's not like the world's tiniest arcade cabinets that you might see at, like, Walmart. It's, like, a substantial enough size, though it's tiny, and you can still, like, put it up on, like, a desk or something. These are cool. I've had them before, and, like, yeah, I think they're quite neat. So yeah, like, I still think, like, a lot of the stuff that Arcade1UP does is really cool, though I've just, like, kind of fallen out of love with, like, buying these things. And frankly, like, I feel like soon I'm definitely going to get rid of a good majority of these, and, you know, at least, like, give them to friends and people who definitely want them and will get a lot of use out of them. And I'd rather just kind of save up and spend a lot of money on, like, a really nice arcade machine. You know, something that, like, you know, will take up less space than all these in a row. And, you know, just get, like, a really nice quality one instead of just getting a bunch of, like, kind of, like, you know, lower quality ones. First one to go, Frogger. This one's pretty bad. The arcade cabinet design is like a mockery. It's like this weird, like, trying to be like the original Frogger, though it uses, like, new art, new design, all that stuff. It's not even close to, like, being a replica of the original. And then the actual, like, emulation is, like, using this weird, like, Vaseline filter. It looks bad. Like, like, the pixels don't look crisp at all. And then on top of that, the Frogger music has been replaced with, like, this gross ass off-key remix kind of thing. Like, it feels like it's taking the Frogger theme and just replacing all the notes. I feel like I'm going insane playing that game. Big Buck Hunter one is pretty cool, though it takes some getting used to play like with the, LCD monitor and the light gun. The Simpsons one, I kind of only got for Simpsons bowling. I remember playing Simpsons bowling at like this sports bar restaurant with my dad as a kid. Yeah, I really like it. It's a little trackball bowling game. It's super easy, but I really like it. It's really fun. So I kind of have that for like nostalgia on Simpsons bowling alone, even though I do like the arcade game. I really like Simpsons bowling. Arcade1UP, I love your concept. I've always loved the concept. And, like I'm always interested to see what you do next. I'm always interested to see what's going on. But I've already bought a lot of these. And frankly, like, as much as I want the golden tee, like Pro Line 1, I'm like, I'd rather just invest in getting a good, like, standard arcade cabinet. I don't want to constantly have to get a new Arcade1UP and build it and then put it in this place and then find out what to do with the old one, Like, I just feel like there should be better solutions for pre-existing Arcade1UP owners, because honestly, it just kind of feels like I get burned every single year whenever they announce their new slate of Arcade1UPs, and oh boy, it's just the same stuff over and over again. But it's Pac-Man again, but with a slightly different looking joystick. I'm like, I want that joystick! I have the space now. I'm very thankful to have the space. I have the ability to save up and get that arcade cabinet of my dreams. And, I'm really... I think I'm going to do that, and I'm going to give my friends these, and, I'm very grateful to be in a position where, like, I can do that. But, man, like, I'm always really interested to see what this company does next, and it kind of bums me out that I've kind of outgrown them in many regards. They've just burned me too many times, and honestly, I don't know what they can really do to pull me back in. If they release all of these, that's a start.